What if your RV wasn't just for camping, but your base camp to legendary Pacific Northwest stages, unforgettable shows, and the kind of live music moments you'll remember for the rest of your life? Welcome to RV Out West. I'm Brooks. Based in the Pacific Northwest, my family of four hits the road to explore the best of RV life out west. From hidden gems and epic destinations to helpful tips and real road stories. So grab your coffee and join the journey. I am a music geek. I seriously cannot go through a day without listening to music. I play it in my ears at the office for 8 hours a day. When I come home, and if I've had my way, I'd be spinning a record and not watching the TV. Music has a way of sneaking into our lives and quietly taking notes on everything we do. It becomes the background score to the ordinary and the unforgettable alike. The late night drives, the first real heartbreak, the kitchen dance parties when nobody is watching, and the quiet moments when you're just trying to figure things out. Long after the moment has passed, a song can bring it all rushing back like it never left, as if the sound itself stored the memory away for safekeeping. It's funny how one chorus can do what whole years sometimes can't. It unlocks something you didn't even know you were holding on to. Just like the smell of rain on pavement or a campfire drifting through the trees, music has that same strange power to time travel us without warning. One familiar melody can drop you right back into a version of yourself you thought you'd outgrown, reminding you not just of where you've been, but who you were when you were there. I've been to stadium shows. I was lucky enough that my father took me to see the Rolling Stones for the Stellar Wheels Tour in Vancouver, BC back in 1989. And the band Living Colour, well, they were opening for them. I hate to admit it, but at 16, I was more excited for the opening act. Yet, I've seen Phish play the Student Union Building at Evergreen State College. There was that unexpected Nirvana show where they played at Peach's Beehive Music on 45th Street in the U District for their Nevermind album release. There was also that time when I was at university and a college buddy and I made the pilgrimage in his VW bus out to the Gorge in George to see the one and only Jimmy Buffett. There are baseball fans who spend years chasing a dream, visiting every major league ballpark across North America. They map out road trips, collect ticket stubs, and measure their journeys one stadium at a time. It's not just about the game, it's about the experience, the stories, and the memories made along the way. That got me thinking about another kind of bucket list road trip. What if, instead of ballparks, you set your sights on legendary music venues? What if your RV becomes your rolling base camp for a journey through the Pacific Northwest's most iconic stages? One weekend, watching a concert beneath the stars at the Gorge. The next, you're stepping through the doors of a historic theater in downtown Portland, or discovering a venue in Idaho that has welcomed generations of performers. Suddenly, the destination isn't a campground or a tourist attraction. It's the music, the venue, and the experience of being there when the lights go down and the first note fills the room. That's the road trip we're setting out to explore. An RV tour of the iconic music venues right here in the Pacific Northwest. The Pacific Northwest has a way of turning live music into something bigger than just a night out. From the roar of a packed amphitheater to the hush that falls inside a historic theater right before the first note. These are places where performances become memories that stick long after the last encore. Each venue carries its own history, its own energy, and its own role in shaping the region's musical story. What follows is a look at 10 of the most iconic stages across Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. Places that deserve a spot on any music lover's travel list. These are the venues worth building a road trip around, where the journey is just as important as the show itself, and every stop adds another chapter to the soundtrack of the Pacific Northwest. Let's start with one bonus venue that deserves an honorable mention: the Tractor Tavern in the Ballard neighborhood of Seattle. The Tractor Tavern sits in the heart of Ballard, a neighborhood that blends old maritime grit with a steady creative pulse, and the venue fits that setting perfectly. Opened in 1993, it was built inside a former tractor dealership, and that history still lingers in the name and the no-frills wood and metal interior. From the beginning, it carved out a space for roots-driven music in a city better known for its rock and grunge legacy, giving country, folk, Americana, and alt-rock acts a home stage that feels grounded and unpretentious. What makes the Tractor Tavern so iconic is how close the music feels to the room itself. It's small, loud in the best way, and built for connection between the artist and the crowd. Over the years, it has become a rite of passage venue for touring musicians passing through Seattle, and a go-to spot for fans who want a show that feels immediate and unfiltered. In a city filled with legendary stages, the Tractor stands out by keeping things simple: good music, a tight room, and nights that tend to feel bigger than the space holding them. This place has been on my list for a long time to see a show, and I only saw my first show there a little over a year ago. I saw Patterson Hood of Drive By Truckers with Craig Fenn of the Hold Steadies play a solo show. If you're old enough to remember when VH1 did Storytellers, this show was very reminiscent of that, and it really is probably one of the most intimate venues in the greater Seattle metro area. It really is an incredible music venue. Number 10, Roseland Theatre in Portland, Oregon. The Roseland Theatre sits right in the heart of downtown Portland, but once you step inside, it feels like you've entered a different world entirely. Opened in the 1980s, the venue was built into a former church structure, giving it a layered history that blends old architecture with the energy of a modern concert hall. Over time, it became a cornerstone of Portland's live music scene, hosting everything from punk and alternative rock in its early days to major touring acts across nearly every genre. What makes the Roseland so iconic isn't just its roster of performances, but the way it captures the pulse of the city's music culture in such an electric setting. The main ballroom, with its elevated stage and packed floor, puts fans right in the middle of the experience, close enough to feel every beat and lyric. For decades, it's been the kind of place where artists test new material, fans discover new favorites, and unforgettable nights tend to unfold without much warning. Number 9, the Crocodile in Seattle, Washington. The Crocodile is one of those Seattle music landmarks that feels inseparable from the city's creative DNA. In fact, it was the last place I saw a show right before the world shut down for the COVID pandemic. I saw the Hold Steady there in the spring of 2020. Opened in 1991 in Belltown, this venue quickly became a proving ground for emerging artists during the rise of the grunge era, hosting early performances from bands that would go on to define a generation. The original space was small, gritty, and packed shoulder to shoulder, giving it a reputation as the kind of room where anything could happen on any given night. After a move and a full rebuild just a block away, the Crocodile returned with a bigger footprint while still holding on to its original spirit. Today, it remains a vital stop for touring acts and up-and-coming artists alike, blending its historic legacy with a modern live music experience. What makes it so special isn't just its past, but its continued role as a launching pad, where Seattle's music story is still being written, one show at a time. Number 8, McMiniman's Elks Temple Spanish Ballroom in Tacoma, Washington. McMiniman's Elks Temple Spanish Ballroom is tucked inside one of Tacoma's most fascinating historic restorations, a building that dates back to the early 1900s when it first opened as a Grand Elks Lodge. With that larger revival project, the Spanish Ballroom stands out as a centerpiece, an ornate, old world space that has been carefully brought back to life by McMenamins, preserving its architectural detail while reintroducing it as a modern live music and events venue. The moment you step inside, the layered history is still visible in the walls, ceiling details, and craftsmanship that speaks to another era. What makes the Spanish Ballroom so compelling today is the contrast between its vintage setting and the energy it now hosts. It's a space that naturally leans into live music, where the acoustic and atmosphere make performances feel intimate, even when the room is full. From touring bands to themed dance nights, it has become a gathering place where Tacoma's past and present meet in real time, offering a concert experience that feels as much about the space itself as it does about the music on stage. Number 7, Knitting Factory Concert House, Boise, Idaho. Knitting Factory Concert House has long been a cornerstone of Boise's live music scene, opening in the mid 1990s as part of a growing network of venues that helped bring national touring acts into mid-sized markets across the country. From the beginning, it carved out a reputation as a place where genres blurred and discovery happened often. Rock, hip hop, indie, punk, and electronic acts, all sharing the same stage across different nights of the week. What makes the Knitting Factory so cool in the Pacific Northwest circuit is its role as a cultural bridge between emerging regional talent and majoring touring artists. The multi level layout gives it a club like intensity where the crowd feels close to the performance, no matter the size of the show. For many artists, it's a key stop on the Northwest Tour route, and for fans, it's a place where Boise's music identity comes into focus. Loud, energetic, and always in motion. Number 6, Neptune Theatre, Seattle, Washington. Neptune Theatre sits in Seattle's University District, a neighborhood where the energy of students, longtime locals, and visiting music fans all seem to overlap. Opened in 1921, the theater originally served as a silent movie house before gradually evolving into a live performance venue. Over the decades, it has been carefully restored and reimagined, preserving its early 20th century architecture while adapting to the needs of modern touring artists and audiences. What makes Neptune so iconic is the balance it strikes between music and immediacy. Inside, the ornate detailing and vintage design sets the stage long before the first note is played. But the room itself is built for connection, intimate enough that even larger shows feel personal. It has become a favorite stop for artists who want a crowd that's fully engaged. And for fans, it's one of those Seattle venues where the experience feels just as memorable as the music itself. I've seen the Descendants, Drive-By Truckers, Margot Price, Tyler Childers, all at this incredible venue, and this is one of my favorite places to see a show. Number 5, the Paramount Theatre in Seattle, Washington. The Paramount Theatre has been part of Seattle's cultural fabric since 1928, originally opening as a grand movie palace during the golden age of cinema. Designed with ornate detailing, sweeping architecture, and a sense of occasion built into every corner. It was the kind of place people dressed up to visit long before it became one of the city's premier live music venues. Over time, as entertainment shifted from silent films to touring productions and concerts, the Paramount evolved with it, carefully preserved and restored so that much of its original elegance still remains intact today. What makes the Paramount so incredible is the way it transforms a night out into an experience that feels elevated the moment you walk through the doors. The acoustics, the scale, and the historic atmosphere create a setting where performances feel larger than life without losing that intimacy. It has hosted generations of artists across every genre, from classical performances and Broadway tours to legendary music and contemporary acts, making it one of those rare venues where the building itself feels like it's part of the show. Number 4, Egyptian Theatre, Boise, Idaho. The Egyptian Theatre stands as one of Boise's most recognizable landmarks, a beautifully restored 1920s movie palace that feels like stepping into another era the moment you cross the threshold. Originally opened in 1927 during the height of the ornate cinema design, it was built to transport audiences far beyond everyday life, compete with an Egyptian revival architecture that reflects the fascination with ancient design trends of the time. After decades of change in the entertainment world, the theater was carefully restored and reimagined, preserving its historic character while bringing it back to life as a premier venue for film, concerts, and live performances. What makes the Egyptian theater so iconic today is how it blends the historic atmosphere with an intimate live experience right in the heart of downtown Boise. The detailed interior, arches, murals, and vintage design elements all create a sense of occasion before the show even begins, while the size of the venue keeps performances up close and personal. It has become a cultural anchor for the city, hosting everything from touring musicians and community events, and remains a place where both the history of Boise and the energy of live performances continue to meet on a shared stage. We've just taken a quick tour through some of the most iconic live music venues in the Pacific Northwest, the Crocodile and the Paramount Theater among them. Each one carries its own story, its own sound, and its own place in the region's music history, from historic theaters and legendary clubs that have hosted generations of artists to stages that continue to shape unforgettable nights. And here's where it gets even better. Coming up after the break, we're counting down our top 3 must-see live music venues right here in the Pacific Northwest. The ones that, if you're planning a road trip with your RV and your concert calendar, absolutely need to be on your list. So don't go anywhere. First, a word from our newest sponsor, Scenic Washington. Discover all 29 of Washington State's scenic byways with Scenic Washington's 2026 guidebook and map, packed with route details and must-see stops. Best of all, it's free. Pick up one at visitor centers all across the state or at scenicwa.com. You can also click the link right there in this episode's podcast description. So order yours today. What are you waiting for? Start planning your next adventure. If you're just joining us, we've been exploring some of the most iconic live music venues across the Pacific Northwest. Places that are more than just stops on a map, but real destinations where music and memory tend to collide in the best way. Now, it's time for what we've all been building towards, the top 3. These are the venues that rise above the rest, the ones that deserve a spot on your must-see lists if you're planning a music-fueled road trip through Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. You're listening to RV Out West. Number 3, Crystal Ballroom, Portland, Oregon. The Crystal Ballroom is one of those Portland venues that feels like it was built for nights you don't forget. Opened in 1914, it was originally designed as a dance hall, and that purpose still echoes through the space today. The building has lived many lives over the decades, but its most famous feature, the floating dance floor, has remained a defining part of its identity, giving the room a subtle bounce that seems to move with the crowd. What makes the Crystal Ballroom so incredible is how it captures the spirit of live music in Portland. Intimate, energetic, and just a little unpredictable in the best way possible. The space has hosted everyone from touring indie bands to major artists passing through the Pacific Northwest. And it still feels like a place where anything can happen once the lights go down. It's not just a venue you visit for a show. It's a place where the room itself becomes part of the experience, carrying the rhythm right along with the music. We are so close to revealing number 1, but first we should chat about number 2, the Showbox Market near Pike Place Market in Seattle. The Showbox sits just steps from Pike Place Market, tucked into the constant motion of downtown Seattle, almost like it has been quietly observing the city for decades. Opened in 1939, it began life as a dance hall and performance space, welcoming big bands and early touring acts at a time when live music was the center of nightlife. Over the years, it has shifted with the sounds of each generation: jazz, rock, punk, indie, each era leaving its mark on the room without ever fully erasing what came before. If these walls could talk, they'd probably speak in layers of applause, distorted guitar riffs, and late night encores that ran long after the streets outside went quiet. They'd remember the early crowds pressed close to the stage, the breakthrough sets that turned unknown artists into names people now recognize, and the thousands of small moments that never made headlines but stayed with the people who were there. Today, the Showbox still carries that same energy, an intimate, no frills room where the music feels immediate and where every show adds another story to a venue that never stopped collecting them. We've made our way through some incredible stops across the Pacific Northwest, rooms full of history, packed club shows, and theaters where the energy feels close enough to touch. But now we're down to the final stretch. And number 2 is just setting the stage for something even bigger. Because if everything we talked about so far feels like part of the story of live music in this region, number 1 feels like the place where the story opens up into something wide, cinematic, and unforgettable. A venue where the setting itself becomes part of the performance, and where every show feels like it's been built into the landscape. So, with that, let's head out east, out towards the Columbia River, and introduce the crown jewel of Pacific Northwest live music, the Gorge Amphitheater. For obvious reasons, coming in at number 1. The Gorge Amphitheater is one of those rare venues that feels almost shaped by land itself. Carved into a hillside overlooking the Columbia River Gorge, it was developed in the late 1980s as a purpose-built outdoor concert site, taking advantage of the natural slope and sweeping canyon views that seem to stretch endlessly behind the stage. What began as a relatively remote performance space quickly gained attention for its setting, where the sunset doesn't just happen in the background of a show, it becomes part of the performance. Over the years, the Gorge has grown into a pilgrimage site for music fans, known for multi-day festivals, camping under open skies, and nights where sound travels across the canyon walls as stars take over the horizon. Its reputation was built not only on major headline performances, but on the experience surrounding them. The journey through Eastern Washington, the shared energy of thousands of fans gathered in one natural amphitheater, and the feeling that for a few hours, the landscape and the music are working together in concert. If you want to understand just how special live music at the Gorge really is, check out the documentary Enormous. It captures the scale, the setting, and the feeling of being in that canyon in a way that words alone can't quite do justice. If you're even remotely interested in music, road trips, or unforgettable venues, it's absolutely worth watching. I will make sure to have a link over to the movie on Amazon Prime in the show notes on our website at rvoutwest.com. There's something magical about walking into a legendary music venue. The lights dim, the crowd buzzes with anticipation, and for a few hours, everyone shares the same soundtrack. Across the Pacific Northwest, some venues have become destinations in their own right, places where music history has been made night after night. From the grandeur of Seattle's Paramount Theatre and the storied stage of the Gorge Amphitheater overlooking the Columbia River, to Portland's beloved Crystal Ballroom with its famous floating dance floor, and Boise's iconic Egyptian Theater, these venues are more than buildings. They are keepers of memories, where generations of fans have discovered new artists, witnessed unforgettable performances, and experienced the kind of nights that stay with you long after that final encore. And speaking of encore, There's a bit of fatherly advice I feel obligated to pass along, and it's simple. Never leave before the encore's over. I don't care if the parking lot looks like a slow-moving nightmare, or if you're convinced you'll beat the traffic. The traffic will still be there, but the moment you miss will never come back. I've seen it too many times to ignore. Carlos Santana stepping out at the Greek Theater in Berkeley to join widespread panic for a jam that nobody had on their bingo card. Or that night at Zoo Tunes at the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle when Jason Isbell was on stage and Mike McCready of Pearl Jam walked out and tuned his guitar and turned a great show into a once-in-a-lifetime memory. Those aren't just songs. You don't schedule those moments. You stumble into them. So here's the rule, and I don't want you to learn it the hard way. Stay in your seat. Stay in the crowd and wait for those house lights. The encore isn't the end of the show. It's where the magic tends to hide. All right, my friends. The conversation doesn't have to end here. If anything we talked about sparked your curiosity, head over to rvoutwest.com and take a moment to check out the show notes. We've got links to everything we mentioned, so you can dive deeper and explore more. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or family member. If you haven't already signed up for our free monthly newsletter, please visit our website at rvoutwest.com and get some insider info that you don't normally hear about here on the podcast. Next Monday on RV Out West, I've got an old friend of mine joining us on this show, Jay, who now, for the last 9 years, has been working at Airstream. He is an RV traveler, a personal friend, and so he's coming on the show to talk to us about some of the cool things going on over at Airstream, as well as about his RV tour through eastern Idaho. You're going to want to hear about all the things he's done. So be sure to tune in next Monday. Thanks for listening to RV Out West. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed the show, tell a friend and please leave a rating or a review. It would mean a lot. Special thanks to Scott Home Music for our intro song, We Are One. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook to join in on the conversation. Now, get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.